Hi, everyone. I'm Jerry Marcello, and welcome to the City Center podcast from West Palm Beach. There are departments in city government that everyone understands. For example, we all know what members of the fire and the police departments do to serve residents, and we all know that not having a utilities department would probably leave us high and dry without a drop of water. But there are some departments that are not as well known, even though the work they do keeps the city running today and into the future. Join us for a look at the Engineering Services Department, next on the City Center podcast from West Palm Beach. Joining me today is Kevin Volbrecht, Director of the City of West Palm Beach Engineering Services Department. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you very much, Jerry. I appreciate this.
We're glad to have you here.
Listen here,
Kevin, one of the great mysteries is we know engineering does a ton of different projects and does a lot for the city, but oftentimes we don't hear about you guys. We don't see a face as far as the Engineering Services Department. Tell us what you guys do, what's involved, and how many folks you got working for you.
Well, we have a staff of approximately 30 individuals in our department, ranging from the director all the way down to our construction coordinators that work out in the field. They go out and monitor the construction projects that are going on for the city. Essentially, an engineer is somebody who needs to solve problems. There are problems that exist that need to have technical, mathematical, scientific solutions to them to resolve whatever the issues are. So we love doing that. That's our nature. When you go to engineering school and you graduate as an engineer and become that way in your career, the reward and the sense of accomplishment you get from solving problems is just tremendous. And the staff that we have in our engineering department is very focused and really enjoys that aspect of it. We are a very close-knit group. We work very good with each other and bounce ideas and concepts and practical solutions off of each other all the time, so that we work as a real good team. So it isn't just an individual. It's like
it's a team effort.
It's like a military group that we're all focusing on the one thing.
Well, tell me a little bit.
Great.
Tell me a little bit about. You say you solve problems. Yeah. What sort of problems do you guys tackle?
Well, there's issues with the city's infrastructure.
Okay.
You know that roads need to be repaved. Sometimes it isn't drained properly. There may be certain repairs that need to be done. There may be reconfigurations that of roadways or intersections and things like that may need to take place. There may be safety improvements that we need to implement, like for crossings at all of the schools. There's also a planning aspect to it of implementing some major enhancements within the city. Like when we did the Clematis streetscape projects, a few years ago, all the way from 600 block to the 100 block down by Flagler. That was a planning and an effort to enhance the experience that the citizens have here in the city. It wasn't necessarily solving an infrastructure problem, but it was an enhancement to the infrastructure.
Right.
So we do both. We try to work on, we're working right now through a whole citywide mobility plan to be able to come up with some projects that we want to expand the capabilities of people not only just driving a car, but walking and riding bicycles in a safe manner, such that the various modes of transportation are available to individuals who want to try to use those. And there's a lot of congestion that comes into the downtown every day, and the less cars that we have to deal with, the better off we would be. But then again, that's not an easy solution. Okay. Nothing is simple, and you can just snap your fingers and, oh yeah, that's what we need to do.
Part of solving a problem. Well, let me go ahead and finish.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so looking at all of the different factors involved in something like that, and how that can fit within the infrastructure that we have and what needs to be modified in order to accommodate those kinds of things are sometimes complicated and challenging, but that's the kind of things that we really need to look at.
Gotcha.
We have to deal with what the drainage infrastructure is, say if we want to make a sidewalk wider or something like that so it can handle bicycles and pedestrians as a multi-use trail. Sometimes the curb needs to be moved in, and the inlets and all those kinds of things that are connected to the drainage system, those need to be also modified so that it'll work.
Sure.
And so a number of those kinds of challenges that we're always looking at. So
how do you identify these challenges? Can a resident come to you with a problem and say, "Wow, this sidewalk could be wider"? How would they get these questions to you?
Well, a lot of the mobility type of projects that we have, we work very closely with the Palm Beach County TPA, as well as there are other associations and groups that we work with all the time as far as having ideas about what they want to do. There's a number of grant opportunities that we have for doing transportation projects that usually require some sort of an element of multimodal equity, as far as the transportation aspects of a project are such that you need to sort of make things a little bit different than they currently are in order to qualify for being progressive in what the transportation means are actually here in the city. And I think we really try to focus a lot on being more progressive and looking more to the future, the way things are going to be, so that we can try to implement those types of projects on a very intelligently and thoughtfully, such that they're going to work with all of the factors involved in those.
Right. So it's fair to say that you guys are involved in planning and the vision of the future and making things better in the long term. So you guys are not necessarily involved in the day-to-day maintenance. So like someone has a pothole or there's a street light out. That's not necessarily where you guys are.
That's not really that's more Public Works that takes care of those types of situations. Okay. But we do get involved, and sometimes it may be not just a pothole. Maybe there's a bigger issue that needs to be looked at from a design level, an engineering standpoint, such that there may be something that needs to be further modified rather than just going and patching a hole. And so we work very, very closely with the Public Works Department, and if there's issues with parking or signage or things like that, you need to have the engineering authority to be able to say, yes, we want to go restrict parking on this street or put a stop sign up or whatever other traffic calming facilities that may need to be implemented in certain situations. And so it's not all just fixing, it's not really doing repairs. It's really like, hey, let's improve the overall street or area more comprehensively.
We've talked a lot about projects or examples of projects that involve roads, transportation. Your universe is wider than that. You do more things.
Oh yes. I mean, obviously there's all the stuff that's underneath the streets, the water, the storm drains, and the sanitary lines. Those all need to be engineered so that they're all going to accommodate what they need to do, as well as things that are above ground. We work with the fire department, the police department. We built 2 fire stations in the last 4 or 5 years, Fire Station 4 and Fire Station 8. The engineering department was totally involved in doing that. Any city facilities that need to be redone, constructed, or added, or new facilities, the engineering department's involved in any kind of design and construction that's going on in the city, outside of whatever the developers are doing. The developers are doing projects. We get involved in those projects such that we review how that is going to interface with the existing city's infrastructure, like the land that they're using, what improvements they're doing to the street, what types of tie-ins that they need to do to our utility systems, Are they going to put in new street lighting? Are they going to landscape? There's all those kinds of things that need to be looked at as far as anything horizontal from a developer project. If they're going to build a 10-story building, we want to look at how is that going to fit in with the current infrastructure that's around that so that it'll work and won't create a problem when it's all said and done. And sometimes that can also be challenging. But we want to look at how do we solve those kinds of problems? What do we need to do to be proactive? What do we need to do to be practical, reasonable about how we can make all of this work such that it's going to be a benefit to the city and its residents in the long run? And that's really what we focus on.
Fantastic. How can people learn about the various projects that are underway right now?
Well, we have a number of capital projects that we're managing. We do have the website. The current website has a CIP, a capital improvement program page on that you can look up any of the projects that we're working on right now, and so that's easily accessible to the public, and they can learn about those projects then.
At the time of our recording here, how many projects are underway?
There's approximately about 30 to 35 projects currently underway.
That's a lot.
That's about the average that we've been actually completing on a yearly basis. Excuse me, I should say there's about 30 to 35 projects that will complete this year, but there's really about 50 projects that are actually underway.
Wow.
Some of them span more than 1 year.
Okay.
Not everything can be completed in 6 months or 12 months. Sometimes it takes 24 to be able to complete a project.
Wow. So you guys are involved in the growth of the city, the development of the city, on a level where a lot of people don't see. You're dealing with subterranean projects, infrastructure that's under the ground, the roads themselves, and we have all these tall, shiny buildings, but the basis of all that support and supplying and supporting that those buildings belong to in your realm.
Yes, they do, and again, if there is some enhancement that we want to be able to move forward with, like a streetscape project, we also want to look at, hey, what are the utilities condition? Do we need to replace, repair, enhance, or improve the sanitary sewer lines, or upgrade the storm drain or the water mains before we do the surface improvements? We want to make sure that there's a synergy between those two elements. Let's fix what's underneath the ground before we spend a bunch of money improving everything on top.
Right.
Or if there is a utility project that's prioritized as far as getting that replaced or repaired, what can we do to enhance, make the surface improvements afterwards better? So if it's a utility issue, or if it's a streetscape project, we want to make sure that those two things are together such that we make the improvements both underground and above ground so that they all meet up in the end, so that it's not going to create a problem in the near future. We expect it to be like that for another 20 years before we'd ever have to do anything with it. Right. Or more, honestly. A lot of the utilities in the city are sometimes over 50 years old, and they're fine, but if we're going to go do some sort of a project in that location, we may need to look at possibly replacing those with new facilities and
a preemptive fix before it fails.
Exactly. So we also may disturb something such that we may need to replace that if we're going to get
Right.
As long as it's underground and nobody's touching it and water's flowing through it, it's fine. Once you dig a hole and you expose it, sometimes it's susceptibility to potential damage and things like that is increased, and so we have to account for that when we plan what we're going to be doing on these projects.
We've talked a couple of times today about your involvement in planning for transportation. Let's visit that again, because one of the things that everyone will talk about in West Palm Beach is, as we grow, the challenges of managing traffic, keeping traffic moving becomes greater and greater. What are we doing today to help solve those problems tomorrow?
Well, there are requirements for when any kind of development is going to come up, that we look at what the traffic impacts are going to be for that project. It's going to create a number of trips trip generation is what we call that. It's like there's going to be so many people coming and going from that facility. We want to look at how that impacts the current level of service on the streets that are going to and from that project, how that impacts the surrounding areas. You know, there's a number of factors that are included in those traffic studies that we review to determine if it's going to be acceptable for the capacity of the roadway system that we currently have. We're also looking at adding to that and including in that what are the pedestrian and bicycle facilities that we may need to also include in our evaluation of how that's going to work. That's part of the whole mobility plan that we're currently undertaking, to be able to see that it isn't just cars, it's also people and bikes that we also need to accommodate. And so that aspect of it is something that we look at based on how many units are going to be in a building and what types of, you know, how many people are going to be coming and going from that and how they're going to be able to do that. We want to try to promote, you know, public transit, other means of getting in and out of a facility, sure, other than just driving a car and parking a car. So there's other ways of doing that we hope. You know, we have a whole workforce housing program going on in the city where we want people to live downtown and work downtown. You know, there's a big push for that to continue, and I think that's very effective because then they're not on the streets. They're walking on a sidewalk, or they're riding a bike to work, or whatever they need to do, and so it really does help. It's an evolutionary process. It's not like something we're just going to change overnight. We have that vision and that focus where we want to have this implemented, and you know, we keep that in mind every time we look at whatever development project may be coming up, so that we can see how that is going to work in that way. So
as you move forward, how do residents become involved? Do they have a voice? How can they talk to you about their ideas and what you're doing?
Well, residents are very, very important. I don't think we want to do anything without having the residents involved in what project we want to undertake. We do have a whole community engagement process that the city uses, the BERT, the BERT process, and it is, if we have a project plan, we want to go meet with the community. We want to get their input. We want to get their feedback. We want to get their ideas on. We're planning on doing, you know, we want to modify this street. We want to put bicycle lanes on it. We want to landscape, replace the street lighting, upgrade, you know, the road surface and things like that, and how that impacts the community and what wants and desires that they may have that we could possibly include in that project. And we want to get their consensus ultimately that we're going to move forward with this project. And then they're behind it, they support it. Whenever you do a construction project, you know, there's always going to be a lot of inconveniences for people. I mean, you're going to be shutting down lanes. There's going to be a lot of barrels and dirt and everything like that. It gets kind of messy. We try to keep that under control, obviously. But the inconvenience that's going to be experienced during the construction phase of it, we want them to be on board with what we're doing from the beginning, so that, yes, we're going to need to break some eggs, but we're going to make a beautiful omelet when we're all finished. And it's going to be delicious. And that's really what we're trying to achieve. I mean, it's just speaking, you know, metaphorically, yeah. I think that's kind of how it works. And so it's very, very important to have the community's input on the projects that we're doing, so that when they see somebody out there working on something, they're not surprised, and they anticipate this, you know, and we really make a very strong effort to be able to keep the public informed about what it is that we are going to be doing. Sure. And that it's going to be what they expected it to be based on the public meetings that we had with them previously. So when it does happen, they go, hey, this is great. The Banyan project that we just finished a couple years ago, there was a lot of community outreach on that. There was a lot of inconvenience with that project. I mean, it was under construction for 2 years, and getting in and out of downtown was a little bit more cumbersome during that process. But now that it's finished, it's like, oh, this is beautiful.
Yes.
It is absolutely a wonderful project, and you can go from downtown to Australian Avenue in a much more pleasant experience than you were before we did the project, and of course, obviously during the project. But it really turned out nice, and that's what we want to be able to achieve, is something that's going to be really an enhancement to people's experience, to people's daily encounter with the city of West Palm Beach. Either they're coming in and out of the city of West Palm Beach, or they live here and they need to go someplace within the city. We want to be able to have those accommodations for them so that it's a more pleasurable experience. There's a lot of areas in the city that need attention, that we want to be able to plan for possible enhancements to those locations. And so it's a long-term process for us to be able to eventually get to all those things. But there's not any section of the city that's forgotten.
This has been incredibly educational. I mean, I've learned a lot just now about what you guys do, and in great depth, and you guys are truly the doorway to the future. You guys are plowing the future where we have proper support and proper infrastructure for a growing community. This is an opportunity right now for you to, is there a message that you have for residents, something you'd really like to share with them?
Well, I think we receive comments from residents through our WPB site. Sometimes we get phone calls about certain things. They're asking like, hey, my street's flooding. When is my road going to get paved?
Yeah.
We do have, we just undertook a whole pavement condition indexing program where we assessed all of the roadway pavement and sidewalk conditions throughout the city that were still in the process of evaluating all of that data that was collected to assign a pavement condition indexing number towards that, so that we can prioritize the areas where this is the worst condition that we need to focus on first, as opposed to, it's between 0 and 100, and we want to look at things that are below 70. But if it's in the 40s or 50s, we want to look at that first and see, we need to go plan a project to go repave that road. And when we do that, we also have to upgrade all of the American Disabilities Act's ADA requirements for all of the curb ramps at all of the crosswalks. Those all have to be brought up to code.
Wow.
If there's issues with the curbs along the street, we need to address that as well.
Yeah.
We can't just go pave a road without addressing those things too. Sure. And so we have to put together all of the design plans and everything like that to be able to go forward with doing those projects. We expect that our pavement condition indexing assessment report is going to be available to us by the end of this year or sooner, and then we will start working on prioritizing the areas that we want to go focus on.
Sure.
Now, a paving project is going to be related to that PCI that we're going to develop, but sometimes, again, like I said, there may be utility needs that need to happen, or planned streetscapes, or some other factor that might necessitate us having to go work on road work on another area because of some other factor. It isn't all just the pavement condition, even though that's a very high priority as far as what roads we're going to plan on working on. But there's other factors involved, like I said, utility work, streetscape projects that are coming up that also need focus on them as well. So,
well, let me jump back, because you said something early on that I think we need to talk about. You mentioned WPB Key as a way for residents to communicate with you, to give you information, and a way for you to sort of converse back.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Now, that's a mobile app, is it not? Is it not?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And you can access that, and you can put in all the information, and then we get those notifications.
Oh.
We email notifications of those on a daily basis. And we have to go look at what the comments or the questions or the concerns are, and so that we can respond back.
Okay.
Like, hey, we're going to look at this. It may be in progress, or this is what we're planning on doing about this, and
Well, that's really
communicate
neat.
that, and then go do it, and then basically resolve that issue for the folks.
So that's WPB Key.
Yes.
It's a mobile app. If not mistaken, you can get it for Android and for
Yeah.
iPhone. And it's a great way for someone to sort of like open a discussion with you guys.
Exactly. Yes, it is.
That's fantastic.
And some of these things are not surprising. Yes, we see that there is an issue, and sometimes we don't drive over every square inch of the city all the time. And so it's nice that they're be able to communicate, hey, there's a concern you have in this area that maybe we didn't notice. And so it's really, very helpful for us to know where we need to look at. And again, the entire city is a canvas that we need to look at when somebody points to a specific spot. We have to be able to ascertain what the problem is, and we're very we're thankful that they're able to point those things out to us that we wouldn't have noticed otherwise, and so we can go address those things accordingly and hopefully take care of that situation satisfactorily, such that it's going to resolve the problem that they brought up to begin with.
So, Kevin, you have a team that's involved in solving problems and planning for a future in the city of West Palm Beach, which is going to be bountiful and beautiful and well supplied with everything that the residents need going forward. That's a big job. You guys do a great job at it.
Yes, I mean, we're not going to solve every problem. We're not going to satisfy everybody. You're not going to make 100% of the people happy.
Yeah.
But we really want to make the majority of people satisfied that what we do is for the good of the city and for the residents and for just the overall enjoyment of living in this town and coming to this town. It's a wonderful place to work. The team effort that we have here in the city of West Palm Beach, all the way from the mayor, the city administrator, to the various departments, that we work with all of those to help address issues and solve problems that need some sort of a technical expertise and a design plan, et cetera, to be able to go make an improvement or an enhancement that has a very high level of desire from the community. And so it's very rewarding.
Wow. The
sense of accomplishment that we have on a daily basis is just a tremendous reward for being able to work here for the city of West Palm Beach, and I just love it. It's really enjoyable.
It's obvious that you enjoy your work. Kevin, thank you very much for everything you do for the city, and thanks to your great team for building our future here in West Palm Beach.
All right, well, thank you very much.
And thank you for listening to today's discussion. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe to see more of our content. The City Center podcast is produced by the City of West Palm Beach Communications Department. I'm Jerry Marcello. We'll see you next time.